So we threw together a little bed turning. Now, bed turning is something that you do you tell something about the quilt, such as the maker and around the date that it was made, if you have the information, and all the information that you do have on that quilt. When you get old. There you go.
This is what you call a cheater quilt. On the floor. If anybody don't know what that is, that's where it's one whole thing. It's not pieced together and made. It's just a whole cloth quilt. But I pieced this, quilted it in 2017. It's not a real old one. It's there. And this is the one that my first husband, grandmother, Miss Maudie Jones, several of you may know her. She pieced this, and I don't know what year or nothing, but it goes back a long time and everything, so I don't know. And probably a lot of the pieces, it may be from garments, or it may be from feed, fertilizer sacks, flour sacks, whatever they had, they used. And some of them's got pieced together squares, and some of them just solid. It's just, they did whatever they had and made do with it. What my mother made, I guess it was probably in the early 50s that she made this. And there again, I don't know what this pattern is called, or she probably used paper piecing type wires.
Like a string?
Yeah, and then paper pieces, yeah.
But you'll notice that the back is Guiana sacks. We bought our Guiana in sacks that time.
Were they dyed, or?
Some of them were. No, my mother died.
Was that double wedding ring, or what was that?
Yeah, it's the double wedding ring.
Double wedding, okay.
Beautiful.
And we, us farmers, you know, we raised our own cotton. And when Daddy would carry it to the gin in the fall, he would bring a sack of just cotton back home. They had picked the seeds out of it, and us kids would sit and pull that cotton.
Card.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law says she and her sisters would sit and make bats and pile them on the chair.
Yeah.
And get Mama a bunch of bats made for the quilt.
Yeah.
It was singing. And this is a quilt that my grandmother, Martha Susan Brown Perkins, made.
Is that the flying geese or something? What is that?
I know that pattern, but I can't think of it.
Yeah.
It's bow tie.
No, it's not bow ties. This is a bow tie quilt. My husband's grandmother, Janae Walden Sisson, made this quilt. This quilt is done by Levator Jones Ayers of High Togie. And her daughter Frances is my mother-in-law, and Frances told me that you see all these men's shirt fabrics, and she said when Mama worked at the garment plant, they gave her the scraps from the shirts, and she would make them and use them in her quilts. And so you'll see shirt fabrics in her quilts. By my dad's mother, and she was Jenna Logan Bell, and she was in Pickens County. And Mr. Bell, Mr. Clifton passed away when my dad was a little boy. And this one, she passed away in 1965. And so I imagine this is 1930s and 40s fabrics.
This quilt I brought, I don't know anything about it, except it was in the closet when I married Kenneth. And this is a friendship quilt, and I'm gonna lay it on the table and not fold it up so you can look at it afterwards. I don't know anybody on here. There's a Mrs. G.C. Hemphill, Kenneth Wall, Peggy Jordan, D. Thomas.
Rose Bowles.
I don't know
Cecil
any of these
Taylor.
people, and I just thought I would bring it and let you, was made by my grandmother, Julia Inez Shelton, cook. And they lived here in Lamar County until about 1942, and then they moved to Columbus. I have two of these. One of them, the leaves go this way, and one of them, they go the other way. But it's the, what do you call this? Autumn leaf? Oak leaf? I don't know. Maple leaf. It's maple leaf. It is my prized possession. It was originally pieced by my grandmother in Iowa. Her name was Fanny Frances Jane McCoy Doggett. And she passed away when I was 10 years old. in Iowa, and years later, my mother was going through a chest and she found the top. And this is probably 30s fabric. It may even be some of it older than that. In the 50s, she had dementia and couldn't do anything. My mother brought it to Columbus, and my other grandmother, Julia Inez Shelton Cook, quilted it along with my Aunt Vida. It's like new. It's never been used. It's on a little display thing at home. Some of you all will find interesting. Probably some of you knew Aura.
That's a big
Aura, she was
Or
Cook,
Jordan.
Adams, Jordan.
Yes.
This is her handwork on this. And when I moved here back in 2010, it was 2012, I think, when I met Burma, and she brought me these little squares all wadded up in a Walmart bag and said, would you like some of your Aunt Aura's work? And I said, yes. I didn't know what to do with it. I'd never quilted before. So when we went to Arizona, I found out there was a quilting group, and a week later, a lady came to me. She said, I thought about it, and I would love to help you with your quilt. And I said, thank you, I'd love to have you. And we became good friends, and it took me that one season of 4 months to put this together. And then I mailed it to California to a friend I've known since she was 12, and she is a long arm quilter like Watana is. And she quilted it for me and sent it back. So it's partially custom quilted as she went around the girls and around the blocks. It's beautiful. And that's got a real pretty label on it. Because my friend said, give me the information, and then she mailed me that label after she got home.
Coolin'. Feels good.
Oh,
This is one that I made, I call it Southern Sunrise for that, because labels are so important on quilts. They touched base on it a while ago, but when this quilt is handed down to my granddaughters or grandsons, and then they hand it down to their children and the next generation, who's gonna know anything about that quilt? Nobody. So yes, I will be putting a label on it. That's one thing I stress. It's very important.
You made that recently?
I made that recently, but I'm still alive. I know about when I did it, and I've got to put a label on it. But this was probably my first quilt. I bought it from Hirschner's catalog. Polly Stepp and I did that. She got one with the orange and yellows and stuff with oak leaves. Well, I like blues and greens, so I got this one, and all of this is cross-stitched by hand.
by you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I was working at the time. It's what I call a necktie quilt. I was approached and commissioned by this couple to make this necktie quilt. This guy had a whole box of neckties, and he wanted it made for his wife, for a gift. And I'm sure most everybody in here has seen these ties at one time when I tell you who they belong to. Anybody remember Amos Chandler? Double A?
Yes.
These are his neckties. To make a necktie quilt, it takes a lot of patience and a lot of work, because first of all, you've got to cut that in, unstitch the whole necktie, take the stuffing out, and then start from there. Press them and start from there. I don't have a label on this one yet, but I promise you, I'm making a label for this one.